In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an Excel worksheet that models the charges and the cost in a health insurance plan. This particular plan is called The Plan, and I'm going to start with a worksheet that has some column headings already. First of all, we have the total medical charges. These are the charges that are charged to the insurance company by the providers, and if you didn't have insurance, these are the charges that you would be paying. We have prescription charges, which are also charges that are created by the service provider. In our case, it's going to be a generic prescription. The total medical cost is the portion of the charges that you actually pay, and the prescription cost is the part of the prescription charges that you pay. If you add the total medical cost to the prescription cost, we get the total out of pocket. This is what you pay out of your pocket outside of the cost of the premiums. We also have a column for the premiums, and then the last column is the total annual cost, which is the sum of the out-of-pocket and the premium. So let's go to the first row in our table. Now, we're going to make an assumption for this particular plan that we're going to make 2 office visits and 1 specialist visit during the year. The 2 office charges are going to cost us $125 a piece, so I type equals 2 times 125 plus the specialist charge, which is $200. When I hit enter, it shows me that the sum is $450 in charges just for those visits. That's the least amount I would be charged if I had no other medical charges during the rest of the year. We're going to have a prescription here that's charged at $30 per month, so I'm going to type equals 12 times 30. Now, you may have differing charges here for your office visits and your specialists and your generic prescription, so you may end up something slightly different. Once I get to the medical costs, this is what I'm actually going to pay. The insurance company will pay the rest of it. And what we're going to assume here is that equals each one of those office visits has a $10 copay, so 2 times 10, plus the specialist has a $20 copay. So I have a total of $40 in costs due to the copays for those visits. The prescription cost is going to come in at $10 per month, so my annual cost is equals 12 times 10, or $120. Now the out-of-pocket is just the sum of these 2 previous columns, so I'm going to type equals. I'll click on the 40, type plus, I'll click on the 120, and then enter. So my total out-of-pocket, if all I do are these 1 generic prescription and these visits, is going to be $160. However, the premiums for this particular plan are $200 per month, so I'm going to type equals 12 times 200. So I'm going to have $2,400 in premiums for the entire year. That means my total annual cost is going to be the sum of the $160 in out-of-pocket plus the premium, or $2,560. Now, I'm certainly probably going to have more charges than just the office and specialist charges. So this particular plan has a $1,000 deductible. So in this next line, I'm going to go and do an extra $500 in charges that gets me halfway to that deductible, and that's $950 in total medical charges. I still have the same prescriptions. And now the cost that I'm going to have to pay, I'm going to have to pay that copay. But since I have not fulfilled the deductible, that extra $500 in charges, I have to pay all of it. So that means it's going to cost me $540. Now here's a little trick. The prescription cost is just going to stay the same, so I'm going to click on the one in the row above, grab the fill handle, and pull it down. And I can do the same thing for these others. If I select them all and then pull it down, it's just going to do the exact same calculations, but on the next line using all the information from that particular row. Alright, so I added $500 when I went to the next row. Now let's add another $500 to get me up to $1,450 in charges. This is at the point at which I've paid my deductible. The $360 in charges doesn't change, except now I'm going to have to pay the co-pays plus the $1,000 deductible. And so I'll be paying on those charges, I'll be paying $1,040. All of these others are going to be exactly the same, so I'm going to select them and just pull them down. And we can always go in here and check to see what's in here. Here's the cost of the prescription. Here it adds up the two previous columns. My premiums are staying unchanged. And then the last column here is just the sum of the total out-of-pocket and the premium cost. Now remember, this last line we fulfilled the deductible. So when I go to the next line, now I'm going to start to split those charges and my costs are going to start to go down. So let's add another $10,000 in charges here because I have a $20,000 out-of-pocket maximum. And what I'm trying to do is to reach that out-of-pocket maximum fairly quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put $11,450 in charges. I still have the same charges for the prescription. But now I have to be careful because now I'm going to be starting to split charges. So I'm going to type equals. Now let's think about what we have to pay here. We have to pay the deductible at that level of medical charges of $1,000. We have to pay the copay. Plus, this particular plan, I pay 20% and the insurance company pays 80%. So I'm going to have 0.2 times parentheses the charges. However, I pay 20% of everything above the deductible. So I'm going to type minus 1,000. But also above those office charges and specialist charges, so minus 450 also. In the parentheses, enter, and there's what I have to pay. As before, the rest of these costs are exactly the same, so I'm just going to stretch them down. Now let's go ahead and add another $10,000 in charges. This will get me up to $21,450. I still have that equal 12 times 30. And in fact, now that I'm splitting, this next cell is calculated the exact same way. Except now the difference is after I filled it, I can now see that it's using A7 to make the calculation, whereas in the row above, it had been A6. And all of these I can select and fill. So now I have two charges in the region of this where I'm actually splitting costs. Once I have two charges, now I'm going to use a really neat fill. I'm going to select everything I've done in the last two rows, and I'm going to grab the fill bar and I'm going to pull this down. Notice that it's increasing my charges by $10,000 at a time because that's the pattern that I establish. When I let go of this, we go over and look up to what we've just done, it's increasing the charges by $10,000 each time. And now let's go look at our total out-of-pocket. It's going up, and eventually it comes to a point where it actually exceeds $20,000, and it does that right here in row 15. Now I've already figured out if I do $95,650 in charges right here, the number that I get from my out-of-pocket is exactly $20,000. So what that means is I've reached that point where now I'm not splitting the charges anymore. At the out-of-pocket maximum, the insurance company picks up everything else. So they're going to pick up everything else here. I'm only going to have to pay $20,000. So I'm just going to type in each one of these entries, $20,000, because I know they're going to pick up everything. So when I look at my costs up here, my total annual cost once I reach the out-of-pocket maximum stays constant. So now I've gone ahead and I've filled out my table. The next thing I want to do is I want to graph horizontally the medical charges and vertically the total cost. So the way I do that is I click right here and I drag down to the bottom of the column. I'm going to press the Control button, and now I'm going to go over to the last column, and I'm going to go ahead and select and drag there. What that does is it selects column A and column G, and now I'm going to go up and say Insert, Scatter, and I'm going to select this graph right here, which is a scatter with straight lines. And what it's going to do is create a graph of the situation that I want. I can go ahead and format this graph a little bit. I'm not going to do it here, but you can see that we've got the basic start. We've got the portion of the graph down here when we're still fulfilling the deductible. Another section where we're splitting costs with the insurance company, and then a third section where now we've reached the out-of-pocket maximum, so that's the most that I can pay. So that concludes this video. What's left for you to do now is to go ahead and format this graph in a nice way that it's easy to read.